Today we're looking at a passage that can feel a bit like walking into a storm. It's Romans chapter 1, verses 24 through 32. It's a heavy text, and it's often misunderstood. So I want to ask you to stay with me to listen with an open heart, because what we find here is not just a diagnosis of a culture long ago, but a mirror to our own world and even to our own hearts. In this short passage, the Apostle Paul repeats a devastating phrase 3 times. He says, God gave them up, God gave them up, and God gave them over. That repetition is the key to everything that follows. This isn't God suddenly becoming cruel or vindictive. It's God responding to a long and stubborn refusal. Imagine you keep knocking on a door, but the person inside keeps shouting, "Go away! I don't want you here!" Eventually, you stop knocking. You step back. This is the picture Paul paints. People have consistently pushed God out of their thinking, their values, and their lives. And finally, God respects their choice. He stops forcing himself in. This is one of the most frightening forms of judgment in the entire Bible. It's not a flood or a fire. It's God's absence. It's God allowing people to walk down the road they so stubbornly insisted on taking to see where it leads. Verse 25 gets to the absolute root of the problem. Paul says they changed the truth of God into a lie and worshipped and served the creature more than the Creator. This is the core issue. It's not primarily about behavior or politics or social trends. The deepest issue in the human heart is always an issue of worship. It's about what sits on the throne of your life. When the Creator is removed, something created will always take his place. That creature could be anything: a person, a pleasure, a political ideology, your career, your reputation, your comfort, or even your own feelings. Our modern world might not bow down to wooden statues, but we bow very deeply to the idol of self. So when Paul says God gave them up to uncleanness and to dishonor their own bodies, he's describing the natural consequence of this exchange. When God is no longer the one who shapes our desires run wild. God doesn't create sin in us. He simply removes his restraining hand and allows the human heart to become its own God. And when the heart is its own God, sin becomes its own teacher, and its lessons are always painful. Now, verses 26 and 27 mention men and women exchanging natural relations for what is unnatural, burning in lust for one another. Paul includes same-sex behavior as a visible outward sign of a culture that has turned from God's design. But we have to read this carefully and honestly. Paul is not singling out one group of people to condemn them. He is painting a broad picture of a society that has abandoned its creator and is now experiencing the fragmentation of that choice in many different areas. How do we know this? Because he immediately follows it with a long, sweeping list of other sins. Look at what he includes: envy, murder, deceit, maliciousness, gossip, backbiting, arrogance, boasting, disobedience to parents, breaking promises, being without understanding, without natural affection, and without mercy. All of these are listed right alongside sexual sin. This passage completely demolishes any room for spiritual pride. It doesn't allow any of us to point a finger and say, well, at least I'm not like them. The diagnosis is universal. The point isn't to create distance between different kinds of sinners. It's to show that we all share the same broken human condition. The fundamental issue isn't the orientation of our desires, but the orientation of our hearts. Who is on the throne? Is it God, or is it me? Verse 28 feels like it was written this morning. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind. That phrase, did not like to retain God in their knowledge, perfectly describes so much of our culture. It's not just atheism, the denial that God exists. More often, it's a practical atheism. It's the desire to keep God out of the public square. God might be tolerated as a private hobby or a personal comfort, but he is rejected as an authority in our laws, our schools, our morality, and our understanding of truth and identity. We didn't lose God by accident. In many ways, we've carefully and deliberately removed him because his presence interferes with our desire for total independence. And the result? Paul says God gave them over to a reprobate mind. This doesn't mean a stupid mind. It means a mind that has been disqualified, a mind that no longer uses God's standards to tell right from wrong. It's a mind that redefines good and evil to fit its own desires. It's a mind where truth is no longer an objective reality to be discovered, but a personal feeling to be constructed. We've moved from asking, what is true, to asking, what feels right for me? Our feelings have become our highest authority. Verses 29 to 31 describe what this kind of mind produces: a society overflowing with selfishness, conflict, deception, broken relationships, and a growing hardness of heart. It's the collapse of trust, the breakdown of family loyalty, the loss of natural affection, and unwillingness to forgive. You don't have to look far to see this. Just scroll through social media, watch the news, or even listen to conversations in our own communities. We see it everywhere. Then comes verse 32, which is perhaps one of the most chillingly modern verses in the Bible. It says that people not only do these things, but they have pleasure in them that do them. They approve. They celebrate. In our world today, sin doesn't just ask for tolerance anymore. It demands applause. It wants validation. It wants to be celebrated with likes, shares, and public praise. Wrongdoing is no longer something to be hidden in shame. It's something to be promoted as a brand. Now, after all of that, you might feel like this passage is just meant to crush us with hopelessness. But it's not. It is not written to destroy hope. It is written to explain why we need it. Romans chapter 1 shows us the disease, in all its severity, so that we can appreciate the cure. Later in this same letter, Paul will show that every single one of us is infected, and then he will reveal the cure, which is found only in the grace of God through Jesus Christ. Even in this dark chapter, while people are being given over, God is still calling. God is still reaching. God is still saving. Remember, the man who wrote these words, the Apostle Paul, was once a violent enemy of God. He wasn't rescued because he was a good person or because he deserved mercy. He was rescued because God is rich in mercy. This passage is not saying that some people are beyond hope. It's saying that no one has any hope without God. And that is a very different message. It's a message of profound humility. In our time, so many people are wrestling with their identity, not because they are evil, but because they are wounded and lost. When the Creator is pushed out of the picture, we are left with the impossible, crushing burden of inventing ourselves. But we were never designed for that. We were designed to be known by God, to be shaped by God, and to be loved by God. So Romans 1 isn't a weapon for us to use against the world. It's a lens to help us understand it. It's a call for the church to see a world that has pushed God away, not as a source of our outrage, but as the object of our compassion. A world that rejects God doesn't become free, it becomes lost. And we, the church, do not exist to stand on the sidelines and shout at the darkness. We exist to carry the light of Christ into it. The truth of God's word still saves, but it is love that opens the door so that truth can finally be heard. Thanks for watching. I pray this message was a blessing to you. If it was, please consider subscribing for more content like this. God bless you.